Hello, it's your boy. Now in light. I pretty randomly just felt like talking again, so I do what I do best and I turn on my phone camera and I babble. Um, Now, I wanted to talk about something really, I don't know, something that I randomly thought of or think about sometimes, and that is myself. Not exactly, but a big part of me, or a big part that I like to say was me, but I'm not sure if it still is, and that is depression. Now, for me, no one ever like formally diagnosed me with depression because in the height of my depression, I like many other people, I did not look for help, mainly because it was just like discouraged in my general societal field. You know, I had a mother who would constantly make fun of my relatives who had depression because guess what? It does run in the family on both sides, mind you. So, it was pretty obvious that I was gonna like get that too. Um, yeah, so I never talked about it. Um, and I've been struggling with it as well as suicidal ideation, which I have talked about once before, like a couple months ago, or maybe even last year, I forget, uh, on this channel. Um, it's something that just kind of comes and goes now, but it used to be that used to be my daily routine, I guess. From, it was heavy from, get this, 10 years old, to about 15, 16. I think it started getting less at 16 because during that time I think I just got like more friends and life kind of felt more meaningful. And it's been better since I quit school. Not quit school per se, but I did leave the gymnasium, which is like Germany's highest form of education that you can get like publicly. It's a public school. Most schools are public. I don't know anyone who's ever gone to a private school. But yeah, the gymnasium is like where you do the highest form of graduation that you can, Abitur. And you need to put in the effort, and the effort kind of crushes you a little bit if you're not good with it. And I wasn't good with it, and so I got crushed. They took me out back and they shot me 7 times. No, I'm just kidding. But it did. School is what depressed me most of all. School and the work life. But it's not really important what I was so depressed about. It's more important later on when I when I started noticing, because for me it was such a it was so normal to just be depressed, to have this depression every single day of my life, every morning, every evening, every afternoon, whenever I was doing anything. In the back of my mind, it was constantly, you need to kill yourself. Everything is terrible and you must die. It's kind of like that, and those thoughts get amplified whenever something bad happens, even if it's only really small. When you, I don't know, fuck up a test, or your teacher yells at you because you forgot your homework because you were up all night ignoring that time doesn't stop for you and you need to put down the video games. Um, but yeah, and then at any point I just fall back into it, and then the thoughts would amplify, and it was that for years. Um, and it gets worse when you don't tell anyone and when you don't really have anyone to turn to, and then all the self-harm comes in and blah blah blah. But because this was so normal to me, at some point years after the started just stacking, I remember being 13 and being like, or almost turning 13 and being like, it's kind of weird how I've been feeling this way for nearly 3 years, because when you're 13, 3 years feels like a lot. And I will reveal, last week I turned 18. Scary, don't look. Don't like talking about it, not a fan, didn't celebrate, wish someone hit me over the head with a pan or something and I died instead. There you go with the suicidal ideation again. But yeah. Back then, 3 years felt like a lot. And now it feels kind of silly to look back on that and be like, well, I'm nearing towards a decade. which will then be half of my life, and it's only gonna become more. And, it was to me so normal that when I was like, well, 10-year-olds, when I was 10, I was heavily suicidal and depressed. So I didn't feel that much different than I did today. Because you as a person tend to not notice when you change. That's usually something only the people around you can tell you. Because if you're not super introspective, like introspective as hell, you will not notice. Because you're always the same person to yourself, But now that I have a friend who has a little brother who's like, I think he just turned 13 as well. So he's like 5 years younger than us, I think, 5.5 or so. And when I was 13, he was 10. And sometimes when I'd go over to my friend's house, we didn't really talk to him or play with him because, like, we're 13 and we're not going to talk to the stinky 10-year-old boy. But I would see him and I would, like, notice the way he acted and mostly the way he looked. Because 10-year-olds, as a 10-year-old, you don't notice, but 10-year-olds have tiny little baby faces. They kind of look like toddlers, just a little bigger. And they act like toddlers, just a bit bigger. And they're kind of stupid, and you can really tell that they're not grown at all. That they're 10. And that often, when I noticed these things about my best friend's little brother, I would be like, was I like that too during that time? Oh my god, this is getting kind of hard to talk about. Because it's just, you never want to see anyone else suffer like that. Regardless of if you yourself have had, like, any mental anguish like depression or not, you don't want to see other people suffer, I hope. And then once you start to imagine, that little boy that you're seeing in front of you right now with the cute little baby face that's talking about doing, like, simple multiplication in school, you're like, I wouldn't want this kid to have to sit in his bedroom alone and cry because he thinks he has to die. So why does it feel so normal and, like, okay when it happened to me, I almost didn't want to believe that I was also that small at some point, because obviously your view on yourself is really warped, so you tend to rationalize bad things happening to you sooner than you do it for other people. Like I said, you don't want to see other people be hurt or in pain or suffering at all. But for some reason, when it happens to you, you always tend to rationalize and be like, oh, it's fine, I deserve it because of that, or I can handle it. It's okay to happen to me because I can take it. But whenever I then see kids that are so young, and I remember what was happening to me at their ages, I'm just like, I don't think that was really fair or normal. Because to me, for a while, I used to just think, well, everyone has these thoughts at some point. Some just get them earlier, I guess. And it didn't seem like a big deal, but now it does. When I think about it, it does. It's a huge deal. So many nights were spent crying in my bedroom and formulating plans to end it while I was, like, in school, I don't know, learning what a noun is. And to put these things next to each other is really jarring, because that's not how I remember it. I remember being like, I was like, oh, 10 years is kind of old. I've seen stuff. I've seen enough. And I think I'm ready to, I think I can judge that this is all life has to offer, and I think that I can hop off this train. But it's hard to say it, but I think I'm glad that I didn't end up doing it, even though the thought crosses my mind a lot, where I'm like, if I'd just gotten over it back then, I would not be in this shit today, because obviously you still have problems besides the depression, and I still have issues in my life, big ones too, and then I'm like, oh, if I could have just offed myself, then I wouldn't have had to deal with all this. But there's other things too. There's things that I like. There's things that let me have fun. I like hanging out with my friends. I like drawing, and I like improving at that. And there's always moments that are really good. And then I have to remind myself that this is kind of what you need to live for. And as a 10-year-old, most of the time you can't notice these things because you're too focused on the fact that school isn't going well. And I don't know, you have one good friend and no one else in your class likes you. And you're kind of a weird kid anyway. And you don't want to work ever, which means you'll never get a job and you're gonna get homeless immediately after you come out of the third grade. And so it just is smarter to kill yourself now. Obviously, a 10-year-old can't, judge that at all. So don't. But yeah, that's just, it's so weird to, see children of an age where you went through something traumatic and then to correlate that to yourself. And the answer is yes, you were that small, and no, you did not deserve it, no matter what it was. Every kid deserves to just kind of, have fun and chill. A kid's biggest problem shouldn't be, do I end my life tonight or tomorrow? It should be stuff like, my mom put the wrong cheese on my lunch, or something like that. Stupid stuff should be your biggest issues. Not life-threatening ones. That shouldn't be a problem ever, actually, now that I think about it. But yeah, that's just kind of something I think about often when I, see children. That's just the first thought that I have, and then I have to try and not cry. Yeah. That's about it.